So that what we do it early, we started. There we go. Oh, no. Come on.
Sure.
Come on. Hey mate, can I call you back? I'm just in the boardroom. Okay, bye.
It's not, by the way.
It is on?
But it's showing that.
That's, you should show that in the cameras, yeah? Where's mine not showing it? What did I do? Live stream. Oh, there we go. Where's mine not showing it? What did I do?
What do you usually have? Do you usually have the
Just the front
I've
page
just gone
that
off of
says
this again.
minutes of the ordinary. That's all.
you have
What
the
do you
minutes
usually
and then
have? Do you usually have the
Just the front page that says minutes of the
what do you
The
usually
Olympics don't start in 2032. They start here and now. Hi, I'm Rory Martin. I'm 12 years old and I've been representing Australia for the past 3 years. Sailing runs deep in my family. Starting with my great-grandfather, 4 generations
Sound's
of my
not very
family
good.
have sailed these waters around Melbourne for over 80 years. My mum has spent most of her life on the water too, sailing professionally around the world, even competing in the Sydney to Hobart. So for me, it's more than
oh well, it is. Yeah, it is. We just bought the new furniture and everything.
already going to athletes, now let's go to the facilities. The Whitsundays is the home of Olympic
But
sailing.
where do we sell?
like that. Okay. Are you watching on the website?
Yeah, I'll have a look.
Yeah. I'll turn it back off.
fire up the live stream for us, please, Doug. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for attending today's special council budget meeting. I declare the special meeting of the 17th of June 2026 open at 9:01 a.m. I advise members of the public in the room that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded in accordance with council's standing orders. Councillors and staff are reminded of their responsibilities under their respective codes of conduct, both inside the council meeting and when dealing externally on behalf of council. On behalf of Whitsunday Regional Council, I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land in which we meet here today and pay my respects to the elders past and present. We recognise their deep enduring connection to country and we extend our respect and gratitude for their wisdom and culture. Welcome fellow councillors, WRC staff, members of the public, and no media joining us today for the budget meeting. Must be in Townsville, eh? All right, first item on today's agenda is apologies, leaves of absence, which we have everyone here, so no apologies recorded. The second item is the Mayor's budget speech, which I'll now read. I apologise in advance, it probably turned out longer than what I hoped it would be. So, councillors, today we adopt the 2026-27 Whitsunday Regional Council budget. This is my third budget as Mayor. A quick bit of history. The first budget of this council was adopted only weeks after this council was sworn in and was largely a management budget. There was limited opportunity to influence its direction and understandably it reflected the decisions made from another time. Our second budget, last year's budget, marked the beginning of a different conversation. It was the first opportunity for this council to properly interrogate the organisation's financial position, challenge assumptions and begin addressing some of the underlying issues we had identified. What we found wasn't and still isn't completely comfortable, but we're getting there. We identified a growing structural deficit within the general fund. We found increasing reliance on commercial and utility activities to support day-to-day operations. We found areas where transparency could be improved and areas where difficult decisions have been deferred for far too long. Over the past 2 years, council has spent a significant amount of time addressing those challenges. In fact, by the end of today's meetings, councillors will have participated in 13 dedicated budget workshops and meetings during this financial year alone. Well done for sticking with it. That is a significant commitment, but it also reflects the importance we place on getting this right. The reforms contained within this budget did not happen by accident. They're a result of the work of councillors asking difficult questions, challenging long-held assumptions, demanding greater transparency, and setting a clear direction for the future of this organisation. This council has driven a comprehensive review rating, challenged spending patterns, increased the focus on user pay principles where appropriate, sought greater transparency around our business activities and placed financial sustainability firmly at the centre of our direction and decision making. Most importantly, it should be clear that we have shifted the conversation this year. For too long, budget discussions were primarily focused on revenue. How much can we increase taxes? As you can recall, I started things differently this year. This year, for the first time in many years, this budget places as much emphasis on expenditure and cost control as it does on income. That matters. You know why it matters? Because families and businesses across the Whitsundays are doing exactly the same thing at this moment. In the middle of a cost of living crisis, people are looking closely at what they spend, where they spend it, and whether they are getting value for money. Council should be held to the same standards. The community rightly expects us to manage our own affairs reasonably before asking them to contribute more. That expectation has helped shape this budget. Importantly, this budget has adopted an average general rate increase of 4% across all categories. Residential households, businesses, primary producers, tourism operators, mining and island communities have all been considered under the same overall framework. Now, I know no budget is ever going to be universally popular. Nobody opens their rates notice hoping to pay more. That's just reality. But what we have sought to do is to take a balanced approach, an approach that recognises the pressures facing households, businesses and primary producers, while also recognising council's responsibility to remain financially sustainable and continuing delivering the services and infrastructure our community expects. Importantly, this council has not approached this budget by simply looking for additional revenue. We have looked inward. We have challenged expenditure, reviewed services, restructured the organisation, improved transparency and sought greater efficiency across council operations. Because financial sustainability cannot be achieved through rates alone, It also requires discipline, accountability, and a willingness to continually improve the way we operate. This year, we have continued to advance user-paid principles in areas where there is a clear beneficiary of that service. We have improved transparency for our commercial businesses. We have strengthened the separation between the general fund, utilities, and commercial activities. And we have continued the work of aligning council's resources with council's priorities. Importantly, this budget reduces the general fund deficit from around $12 million per annum only a short time ago to approximately $3 million today. That is a significant improvement. But let me be equally clear. A budget on paper alone is not an outcome. The true test of this budget will not be today's vote. The true test will be what happens over the next few months. Will the efficiencies be delivered? Will the savings be realised? Will project delivery improve? Will our commercial businesses perform? Will customers notice a difference? Will the organisation demonstrate the accountability and performance our community expects? Those are the questions that matter. This council has now set a clear direction. The expectation is now delivery. The expectation is now performance. The expectation now is continuous improvement. Council has set the direction through our corporate plan, our budget, our operational plan, and our long-term financial forecasts. The pathway forward is now clear. The challenge is no longer deciding what needs to be done. The challenge is doing it. And the community has every right to expect results and should know this council has every intention of delivering them. Of course, financial sustainability alone is not enough. The purpose of improving council's financial position is to create capacity to invest in the future of our region, and a bright future it is. The Whitsunday continues to be one of the fastest growing regional communities in Queensland. More people are choosing to live here. More businesses are investing here. More families are building their future here. Growth creates opportunity, but it also creates responsibility. Growth requires housing. Growth requires roads and transport infrastructure. Growth requires water and sewage infrastructure. Growth requires community facilities and public spaces. Growth requires long-term planning and investment. The challenge for council is ensuring we stay ahead of that growth rather than constantly trying to catch up. It pleases me today that we're also adopting council's updated 10-year plans and financial forecasts. These plans remind us that financial sustainability is not an end to itself. The purpose of reducing deficits, improving commercial performance, and strengthening council's financial position is to ensure we have the capacity to invest in the infrastructure, services, and community facilities a growing region will require over the next decade. Annual budgets are important, but the real challenge is ensuring the decisions we make today leave future councils and future generations in a stronger position than what we found them. This budget invests more than $100 million in services and in infrastructure across the region, including $46 million in roads, buildings and footpaths, almost $40 million in water and sewage infrastructure, and $18 million in waste and recycling services. These are the investments that keep our communities functioning today while preparing for the growth of tomorrow. That is why this budget continues to focus on some of the most important long-term challenges facing our region. Housing remains one of the biggest issues that confronts our community. This budget continues investment in the infrastructure planning and growth initiatives needed to unlock future housing supply right across our region. From more than $50 million in housing enabling infrastructure through the Build Whitsundays initiative to strategic master planning, our local housing action plan, and a future new Whitsunday planning scheme, we are laying the foundations for thousands of future homes and ensuring the Whitsundays remains a place where people can live, work and raise a family. We're also continuing to invest in community infrastructure. The Cannon Vale Community Hub and Collinsville Community Hub represent a new generation of community facilities for our region. These projects are not simply about buildings. They are about creating places where people connect, access services, participate in community life and strengthen social connections. At the same time, council's to work on major strategic initiatives, including the implementation of our first environment strategy, the airport commercialisation, network planning and other operational initiatives that will help shape the future of this region. These projects may not always attract headlines today, but they will help determine what the Whitsundays looks 10, 20 and 30 years from now. Importantly, this budget also continues capital investment in the infrastructure our services, our communities rely on every day. Roads, footpaths, water, sewage, waste services, parks and public spaces, These are the foundations of a well-functioning community, and the council has responsibility to maintain and improve them while preparing for future growth. Looking back over the past 2 years, I believe this council has achieved a great deal. We have identified problems that have been allowed to grow for too long. We've been prepared to have the difficult conversations. We have challenged the status quo. We've established a clearer strategic direction, and we've started the work of building a more accountable, financially sustainable and future-focused organisation. But there is still much work to do. The journey is not complete. The budget is not a destination. It is another important step forward. If I was to describe my first year of this council term in one word, it would be understanding. The second year would be about reform. The third year is delivery. Because ultimately our community does not judge us on plans, strategies or reports. They judge us on outcomes. They judge us on whether projects are delivered, whether services improve, whether their rates are spent responsibly and transparently, where the council keeps its promises and not changes its position. That's exactly how it should be. The community has every right to expect results and should know this council has every intention of delivering them. I'd like to thank my fellow councillors for their commitment throughout this process. I'd also like to acknowledge the CEO, executive leadership team, finance team and all of the staff who contributed to the preparation of this budget. Thank you. Well, there have been robust discussions along the way. Everyone involved shares the same objective, building a stronger organisation, a stronger region and a stronger Whitsunday community. I commend this 2026-27 budget to council. Thank you.
Well done.
Okay, we'll move to item 2.2 on our agenda, the operational. Actually, I will move my budget speech. Can I have a seconder on the budget speech? Councillor Finlay, thank you very much. All those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Okay, moving to item 2.2, which is our operational plan for 2026-27. I will move this one as well, and Councillor Clifford will second. Mr. CEO, do you want to talk to this one?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the corporate plan 2530 sets out our 5-year vision for the region and focus for the organisation. The vision of a united community working together to drive a resilient and diverse economy and a livable environment. That's what we're seeking to do. The operational plan just provides you with the key focus areas and the operational initiatives for this coming year. It's our commitment that these are the ones that we wish to focus our attention on. It should be noted though that our business as usual activities are the majority of what we do and they take up a large proportion of our resources. So these particular initiatives are in addition to those business as usual, and our commitment is to basically move our way through them over the year to ensure that they are providing us both long-term direction but also providing us with transformation and also looking at our business and reviews. So the plan highlights a range of strategic and emerging risks as well, which we know about and continue to watch as we move through the process, and also provides you some indication in relation to some of our business activities going forward. So in summary, this document really just provides a clear indication of what our focus areas are in the operational areas over the coming financial year.
Thank you, sir. Start with any questions for the CEO?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for the speech. I know it's been a lot of work for everybody. Also pass on my thanks to everyone that's been involved. Realistically, for me, I always see there's a tie between the operational plan and the budget. As the CEO spoke to, this is still fairly aspirational operational plan. I know we're trying to do business as usual, transformation, and also tighten the purse string. So probably my question is are we being realistic here with what we can achieve? Or is this aspirational, or do we progress when we see savings coming through that opens us up to more of these projects? Thanks.
Yeah. So we've tried to determine an operational plan that has a deliverable component to it. We know that there are resources that we'll have to move around the organisation to ensure that these operational initiatives can be achieved during the time frame. I can say that they won't all be achieved in the first 3 months. It'll take some of us the whole year to actually get through these, but our commitment is to actually address them and progress them through that process. If at any time some of those global risks or other risks come before us, we'll come back to you. Obviously, if we make additional savings anywhere else in the building, we'll try and find that in relation to ensuring that those initiatives are progressed. We'll also be seeking some partners to help us. So some of these initiatives do require some additional partners or some grant opportunities to try and ensure we can achieve them over time. So we'll be actively looking for those.
Councillor.
Thank you, through the chair. Mr. CEO, just a question for you. When we do talk about transformation, and particularly moving into like the new hubs and that sort of thing that we have, I guess, is that part of it? Is that part of the operational plan? And also, I guess, what are the plans for Bowen admin office and also the library there?
Questions. So through you, Mr. Mayor. So when we're having a look at our offering in relation to community hubs, it's trying to determine a different way of providing our services, but also one that actually meets some of our customers' needs. Some in relation to, so we'll be looking at self-service, we'll be looking at 24/7 operations, how that can occur, better utilisation of buildings to achieve those outcomes. But what I probably would tell you is the operation that we have in Cannonvale, Collinsville and Bowen will be quite different. And I suppose that's the issue. They are different communities servicing different markets. And so we need to actually have an operational model that isn't just one size fits all. It actually is tailored to those particular areas. And that's our focus going forward. Obviously, our focus is on customer satisfaction and achieving those customer elements while also looking for efficiencies where appropriate to occur. So at this stage, our focus will be on Collinsville and Cannonvale in terms of looking at those models and running them through. And then we'd like to see that model rolled out to other areas, including Bowen.
Good question.
Yeah, just a follow on, please, Mr. Mayor, through the chair. Just so if it does roll out to Bowen as well, will there be community consultation on what that actually looks like in the plan?
We haven't quite got there yet, but obviously we will be seeking from our customers in particular, what is it they're actually after, whether it's part of the library elements, part of their community access to facilities, whether it's part of the customer service. So we'll be talking to our customers as we go forward in relation to that. So it's probably a bit more focused on trying to work out what the customers are in each of the areas. But obviously, as we've done in the other community hubs, we've generally tried to do a degree of consultation to seek the broader views as well.
Question for me, Mr. CEO. Obviously, the operational plan's delivered throughout the year. How do you intend to improve reporting so councillors can track outcomes and performance rather than just simply activity being completed?
So, yeah, operational initiatives there are various. Some of them actually are a project, so you get to see it's a completion in relation to it. Some of them actually are a philosophy that we're actually changing our direction, and therefore they're probably a little bit harder. We will need to come back with more than just 25% completed. We'll need to come back with clear commentary in relation to it. And in many cases, we'll be coming back with those particular initiatives actually throughout the year at their key milestones to ensure that we've got that direction. I think we will be definitely looking at the quarterly reporting in relation to it, particularly Q1 to Q2 and Q3, to make sure that on those particular ones we have quite detailed reporting in relation to what it is we have achieved, and also identifying any risks or other components to those projects going forward.
Any other questions? I'll go Councillor Finlay first. Councillor Dunn.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Fully support this operational plan, Mr. Mayor. It's aspirational and obviously a lot of operation stuff in there, but I guess my question was around, and it's probably just been answered, about the reporting, not just on how much that's spent and how much that, it's about delivering the outcomes, and even the risks, as the CEO said, of what may not happen as well. And particular emphasis on the our economy section of this, Mr. Mayor, because I know you're driven by the economic side of things, and we established that economic development group within the council to drive it. We've got our economic development action group as well, and it's pretty important that we focus back in on that at the moment. I know we've had a couple of distractions, but we need to really focus back on that, because that's the driving force for the economy of the whole of the region. Everything else that we do will flow on, and to me, one of the most important parts of this, and I think that the CEO's already said, that it says 2028 council is dedicated to a unified, prosperous, sustainable and livable region, embracing diversity, natural beauty and community pride, Mr. Mayor. And we need every one of our workforce to embrace that as well. It's community pride in everything that we do. And we also put our, obviously, our business hat on as well. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Finlay. Councillor Martin?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Probably for me is, I know we've already been through a lot of master planning, but we're seeing the benefits in that. We've spoken to here progressing Queens Beach Master Plan, Proserpine Master Plan and Cannondale Beach Master Plan. There's also a line item there of refreshing and reviewing the 2021 master plans. At the moment on the website, we've put in the new master plans for Collinsville, Bowen, Foreshore and Airlie Beach, but we've removed the greater Airlie Beach master plan. So we've kept the broader Bowen master plan, we've kept the broader Collinsville master plan, but the website's lost the greater Airlie Beach program. So I'd probably just be asking if we are refreshing these things, because there were some good things that, you know, in all of these, a number of projects have progressed over that time, but there were, you know, some elements that align with us moving forward. I'm just wondering if that greater Airlie Beach master plan's being included in that refresh. Thanks.
Mr. Mayor. So yes, we'll be going back to have a look at those ones. They were adopted and a large number of the projects and provisions have been achieved, so it's worth just going back and closing them out in relation to that. I think in the Airlie Beach one, it was one that was actually closed out as part of the master planning process. The area was the same, but I'm happy to go back and have a look and just make sure there's nothing in those things that still are outstanding and are still a priority of the council to go forward.
Councillor Rock?
Thank you, through the Chair. Just a question for Director Gary, just in regards to the roads budget in particular. I know that there has been a decrease in the funding to maintain that, and I've noticed, like, we have been calling on the federal government to reinstate or keep it to the same level, the disaster funding. And I guess I just want to make sure that if we're saying that we're doing the same thing. So I just know that we did drop 700,000 before I started on council, and we never got it back. So the roads that's our bread and butter. That's what we're here for. So because of that, I won't be supporting the operational plan. Like I want to see the roads budget kept to at least the same amount and not dropped. Because as you're aware, that's probably a big part of my region, and yeah, I would just like to see it. We try to maintain it to the same, if not to a better standard.
Do you want to have a go at that first? Because I actually would like to say something on that. I'll challenge that, Councillor Wright. Yeah, I think through the budget review process, I think it was you that was the one that brought to the table that we need to be looking at all departments, including our roads department, for efficiency. So,
but that doesn't mean we cut the budget for maintenance.
I think you've changed your position. Director Murphy?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor. I think, councillors, for me, the adjustments to the budget have been one about standardising effort and trying to offer a consistent level of service. Of course, as Councillor Finlay once said, I've got a hand in my engineer's badge if I ever accept less money. So the challenge there is that, you know, we can always do more, but also get the fact that when you're looking for, you know, $12 million deficit, then we're all going to make a contribution to that. So for me, the building blocks are there. In 26, 27, if I can identify, you've got a road hierarchy review coming to you in July. I don't expect that to be a decision in July. I expect that to be a conversation with council as we explore the issues. And then from that, we need to then build a service level around that based on affordability. And with that, we can actually have visibility of what you'll get for your money at the moment, because we don't have adopted service levels for roads. I pretty much prioritise, or the team prioritises based on the resource we've got, which is the next most important road to go and do. So we need to progress to a place where we've got a bit more structure around that. And then with that, then I can come back and bid for money where you actually be able to see exactly what you're going to get for it. So I'm comfortable with the process at the moment. Yes, it does have an impact on staff. It does have an impact on service level, but it does give us a consistent starting point to actually model what the future looks like.
Any other questions on the operational plan? Anyone like to comment further on it? I will just add a closing comment. So I support the operational plan. It reflects the strategic direction of council through the corporate plan and budget process. I think last year we moved to align the operational plan with the structuring of the corporate plan, and I think I think it's definitely improved year on year. I think probably the other observation is we obviously had a lot in that planning space there last year with regards to master planning, network planning. I think this year the focus to being more on demonstrating measurable outcomes and tangible progress against the priorities through our corporate plan is really good in alignment, I think, what our community expects of us. So, I was having the last word because I was a member of the motion, Councillor Rock. All right, I'll put the item to the vote. The Council adopt the 2026-27 operational plan as included in attachment 2.1. Those in favour? Those against? The motion is carried 6-1. All right, item 2.3 is our revenue statement for 25-26. Move Councillor Collins, second Councillor Simpson. Director Paddy, would you like to speak to this one?
Yes, this is This is a report that we bring to the council every year in relation to our revenue statement for 26-27. It determines the manner and extent to which council can levy rates and impose charges and cost recovery and other charges to our community. It is a strategic document that supports the philosophy and approach towards funding the operations and activities of council. In relation to the revenue statement, there have been only minor changes to the statement.
Any questions? Anyone like to speak to the revenue statement, Councillor Bowman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the revenue statement's really what calls up the money that we need to operate, and again, I'm supportive of the across the board 4% increase. I know we'd like it to be going less, but we also know a lot of other things have gone up more than 4% this year. I do think, last year getting that rating categorisation has improved our equity a fair bit, and I think it's something we've done again this year, and we need to continue to try and get that revenue coming in as fair and equitably across the region as we can. There's a lot of services that we do provide. We all know they cost money and take a lot of work, and I think we've got to find how we can make those affordable, not only for the community, but for the business as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. I'll just a point. I think, happy with the revenue statement. I think it reflects the direction around what we were hoping to achieve from a rating increase at that 4% across the rating categories. I think I look at probably both the rates and then the yield, two different things, and I will note for the record that the yield increase on the general rate is actually 5.8%. So I think it's probably a matter of increase on last year's budget versus I know that there was some supplementary income through the budget review process, but I just wanted to highlight that was the yield was 5.8. Any other comment on the revenue statement? Okay. The motion that Council adopt the revenue statement for 26-27 prepared in accordance with Section 172 of the Local Government Regulation 2012. I put to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. All right, moving on to our next item, which is 2.4, the differential rating categories. Move Councillor Finlay, second Councillor Bowman. Would you like to speak to this one, Patty?
Thank you, Mayor. Again, this is a report that comes up every year in relation to differential rating categories. Again, there is very minimal change in relation to this report, and it does show that it's the differential rating categories that will apply to each of the individual properties within the region which are levied general rates and indirectly impact the manner in which one or more of the utility charges are levied.
Any questions or comments on the item?
I'll go next. Great.
Councillor
Briefly, quickly, just leading into the next item as well, I think with the minimums, I do support getting the equity right here, but I also think, when we do come up against evaluation, we've sort of got to watch the categories too, because we know it's not just the base ones, it is these bridging between our different categories. So I'd just like to speak now to ensure that we are keeping that equity, as we know values are going up around the region, and I think that bridges both of these. Thanks.
That's fine. Let's go to the top, please. Okay, I'm not going to read the whole thing out, but
Mr. Mayor,
okay. The motion that council resolve to adopt the recommendation per item 2.5 regarding setting the minimum general rates in the dollar and limitations as per the detail listed in the report. You happy with that? 2.4, sorry. 2.4, sorry, different, no, sorry, I didn't muddle my words up there. As per the detail of 2.4 regarding differential rating categories, I put to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Okay, moving to item 2.5, general rate setting a minimum general rates in the dollar and limitations. I'll move Councillor Clifford, second Councillor Collins. Director Paddy, would you like to speak to this one?
Thank you, Mayor. I may hand over to the Manager of Financial Systems and Services, because Leah Bradley, because otherwise you'll get very, very sick of me standing up and going through all of these, because there are quite a few that we need to do from a legislative perspective. So I'll hand over to her now to talk about the general rate setting of minimum general rates.
Through the chair. So this report sets the minimum rates as well as the rate in the dollar for each of those differential rating categories that council just resolved. The one thing to note with the change this year is the removal of capping. So that resolution has come out, which we had historically. Moving forward, the rates in the dollar and the minimum are increasing by the 4% that through the Mayor mentioned earlier, proposed for council adoption.
Any questions? Okay, the motion that council resolve to adopt the setting of general minimum rates in the dollar and limitations as per listed in the report, I put to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Moving to item 2.6, delegation of power to the CEO. Move Councillor Clifford, second Councillor Bowman. Would anyone like to speak to the item?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I will with this one. Again, this is the same sort of policy as the council adopted last year. This is the council proposes to delegate to the CEO the council's power under section 81.4 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 to identify in any way council considers appropriate the rating category. So this is just the rating category to which each parcel of rateable land in council's local government area belongs. So that's effectively the paper. Thank you.
Any questions or discussion? Okay, the motion that council having resolved to adopt the differential rating categories for financial year 26-27 resolves in accordance with the section 2571B of the Local Government Act 2009 to delegate to the CEO with no restriction to sub-delegate under section 259 of the Local Government Act council's power under sections 81.4 and 81.5 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 to identify the rating category to which each parcel of rateable land in council's local government area belongs in a way considered appropriate. I put to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Okay, moving to item 2.7, which is the overall plan rural fire brigades. Move Councillor Wright, second Councillor Finlay. Would anyone like to speak to the item?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll hand over to Leah to present this paper.
Thank you. Through the chair, just a very regulatory paper. As council are aware, we've got 5 rural fire brigades within our region that operate. This report is to endorse the overall plan for their activities for the next 12 months.
Any questions or discussion?
It's not a busy year.
Yes, I agree. Okay, the motion that council resolve in accordance with section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and sections 94.3 and 4 of Local Government Regulation 2012 to adopt the overall plans for rural fire brigades in the Whitsunday region set out in the attachment at 2.7.1, the rural fire brigades overall plan for 26-27, and as per the report, I put to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Moving to item 2.9, utility charges waste. Move Councillor Collins. Oh, sorry.
2.8.
Oh, sorry. There's a second one on fire brigades. I apologise. Okay, so item 2.8, special charges, rural fire brigade. Move Councillor Collins, second Councillor Finlay. Speak to the item, please, Leah.
Thank you. Through the chair. So each year we have conversations with our rural fire brigades and we get provided information in relation to their AGM as well as their financial performance that gets reviewed. From those conversations, none of our rural fire brigades have requested a change to the levy, which is proposed for adoption. And we work closely with the Queensland Fire Department as well to ensure that this is sufficient funds for them to generate to operate their activities for the next 12 months.
Just make a comment on that. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. For those that aren't aware, there's 5 active rural fire brigades that take the levy. There's many more rural fire brigades in our area that still active, but they don't have the machinery. They're normally bunches of farmers and that do the deed pretty much. And there will be some changes with the Cannon Valley. The boundary has changed. It's not current in this one, but going forward next year, they've taken some land out of Strathdicky, so just to, the new townies at Cannonvale have taken some of Cannonvale's area, so they've moved into some of what is the North Crossmine Brigade. But yeah, just to clarify that there's many more than 5 rural fire brigades. They're the only active ones with all the machinery and stuff that warrant the levy.
Thank you. Just a little observation for anybody listening in. We collect it, but we don't keep it. It's passed on. We're just a little clearinghouse, and it is a levy. So as a levy, it can only be used for the purpose for which it's collected. So I'd just like to give a shout out to our rural fire brigades. They're all wonderful to thank you.
Any further discussion on that?
Probably just say quickly, supporting Councillor Simpson. It still seems odd to me that one side of Tucker Road is under urban fire brigades and the other side of Tucker Road is under the rural fire brigade. I think some boundary changes going forward will probably work better, for the groups and the clarification. And obviously, these people and the fire service are all there acting in people's best interests and safety. So I support these groups. I wish the townies got away with a $25 charge.
Any further discussion? The motion that Council, having adopted in accordance with section 94.3 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, an overall plan for each of the rural fire brigades of Cannon Valley, Conway, Heron Vale, Gloucester and Bowen Delta, resolve in accordance with section 94 of Local Government Act 2009 and section 94 of Local Government Regulation 2012 to levy special charges as per listed through the items of the report. I put to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Okay, moving to item 2.9, which is utility charges waste. Move Councillor Finlay, second Councillor Simpson. Would you like to talk to the item, please, Patrick?
Thank you, Mayor. This report proposes the adoption and levying of utility charges for waste that will ensure that the cost of providing waste management services is recovered predominantly on a user pays basis. This is in line with our 26-27 budget and accompanying long-term financial forecast to ensure that the operations of the council can continue to be financially sustainable. We do have the officers here from the particular units if there are specific questions that need to be answered as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, this is one of the areas that this council has really delved into during this term, and as we know, with significant increases in the rates and the revenue and the fees and charges to cover it, and we're still not there yet to cover all that. I really look forward to Manager Jared putting the waste strategy review report back to us with a review of the operations in line with what you said earlier about, Mr. Mayor, operational efficiencies and effectiveness and that. So we've got some huge decisions still coming up on here. Still acknowledge that, I can't remember, later on in the budget we've got our 10-year plan for the waste, and it really does show how much we are spending on remediation capital works as far as new cells and everything like that. And I think to the public, I mean, I talk a lot to the public about the waste because it is a huge cost, and we don't really get anything in return for it except a place to dump out rubbish. And gone are the days when you can just dig a hole and put a bit of clay on the bottom of it and away you went. These days it's a $7 million job to dig a hole in the ground and put some linings in it and everything like that, which is absolutely huge and significant. And I think we've got borrowings in this year to do that, Mr Mayor. So it has gone a little bit beyond, I guess, the affordability, I guess, of ratepayers to afford this type of thing. And unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be any subsidies because they're not, great projects to apply for grants on. But I think, what I'm getting to is that the public needs to know exactly what's going on with our waste and why the costs are so high. And I do hope that we do get a bit of a press release on this, just on the dump on the waste, just showing what our environmental requirements are, plus just the absolute cost of it all. So, this is just about a 5.3 increase on our waste charges this year, which goes towards that. But looking forward to the further review of the plans.
Yeah, I'll talk that forward. I wasn't unsure whether to talk to it in the performance activity plans or this, so just confirming. So I guess for the average person, domestic user, their waste charges are going from $788 for bin recycling and waste management fee up to $830. That's a 5.3% increase. I think just probably one thing, and I'm hoping maybe you guys can answer this now. If not, I'm happy to take it on notice. So performance plan indicates revenue growth around 19.4%, 3.45 million for the waste business. And the increase in rates and utility charges only account for a very small portion of that. So I was just hoping to get a little bit more information on where the remaining revenue growth comes from, if not from those rating charges, and whether it's a one-off or whether it's I know there's been some adjustments around different things. So
Through the chair, I'm happy to take that question. So that's a result of the change in accounting treatment for the waste levy. Historically, it was netted off on one line. Now we have separated that into the revenue component and the expense component. So that's why you see that change in those reports.
Very good, thank you. Gets bum.
Probably for me, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to say to the team, recognise how much work has gone into this. I also think while we've seen the costs increase, there's been a lot of work to improve the equity and to also follow that user pays, still keeping it free at the gate for the far majority of domestic. But that's obviously shared amongst everybody. Probably in here is the thing that I see is the risk that's involved while trying to keep the price pressures down on people. I also think that speaks to the value of education and reducing waste, getting it out of those very expensive holes and recycling it. But probably another risk I see going forward and looking at it in the 10-year plan is just about the waste levy and where that does leave us in the long-term finances. I think we've seen it with other councils, and it's obviously a very difficult thing and a charge I don't want to see passed on to our ratepayers if that levy isn't renewed. So take the opportunity to call on the state to really look at the effort that's gone in to improve and reduce our waste, but also understanding the extreme underlying cost we have without putting a new charge on top. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. Anything further on the waste charges? Okay, the motion of the council resolved in accordance with section 94(2) of the Local Government Act 2009 and section 99 of Local Government Regulations 2012 to make and levy the following utility charges for waste management utility services as noted through the report. I put to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Now moving to item 210, utility charges water. Moving Councillor Clifford, seconding Councillor Simpson. Would you like to speak to the item, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Again, like the waste, this is the adoption and levying of utility charges for water and will ensure that the cost of providing water supply services is recovered predominantly on a user pays basis. The increase from last year is around that 5% again. And if there's any specific questions, we do have the council officer here to answer if needed. Thank you.
Any questions? Councillor Bill, I know water's always a favourite of yours.
Yeah, water's my favourite topic, and I love contributing to the economy of the council with my rates, my water notices.
I do notice we've got Troy in the room now, if you've got any hot questions.
Oh, okay, very good, Troy. Yeah, and I love it when the customer service officers smile when I pay my bill. Anyway, so it's all good, Mr. Mayor. I love using water, as you know. That's what it's about. But Mr. Mayor, I just want to say, look, this is again is part of our. Further on, we've got our financial plans, 10-year plans for water and everything like that, and we've done a lot of work on that, and I appreciate what Troy and his team have done to rein this in a bit. Because as you know, we were significantly increased the rates for water over the last 2 years, and I'm happy to know that we're back down to about a 4% this time, which is good. So, overall it's good, and later on we'll talk about our strategic 10-year financial plans, Mr. Mayor, how all this fits in. So, very good.
On the dollar, I added 3.99%.
That's exactly right, Mr. Mayor, what I said.
That's on access.
Yeah, 3.99% I had on it.
Anything further?
I'll just quickly mention the tap tax. I think we have moved ahead. I know there's a lot of work going on there. I know we've put in place policy to oversee this. A return to ratepayers, an extra charge on, what's a fair majority of the population is already connected to these services. The few thousand places, so I just think we have to watch what that dividend is back to council and make sure that we are keeping these charges affordable.
I just need to have a dig at my fellow councillor here, Mr. Mayor, and remind him for those a little bit less fortunate without town water that he's getting his water for less than 1.5 cents a litre when he turns the tap on and doesn't pay electricity or anything. It runs out, so that's not a bad deal, I think.
Oh, thank you, Councillor Simpson.
That's all right.
Thank you through the chair. It's good to see with the allocation tariff, it's still at the 650 kilolitres, I think it is. Is that?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's great. That's very good. Thank you.
Okay, anything further? All right, the motion that council resolve in accordance with section 94.2 of Local Government Act 2009 and sections 9900 and 101 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 to make and levy water utility charges as noted in the report. I put to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Okay, moving to item 211's utility charges sewage. Move Councillor Collins, second Councillor Finlay. Would you like to please speak to the matter briefly?
Through the chair, so this report sets council sewage charges for the next 12 months. We have full cost price models in place for this business activity to ensure that the charges are appropriate to the business requirements to operate. There's no structural change in what's being proposed other than obviously the increase to cover the additional cost of operating the sewerage business.
You would like to speak to the item?
Probably on the same path again, Mr. Mayor. Now that we've got accurate 10-year financial plans, this just reflects the pricing path to where we need to get to. We've probably been a little bit light on the last couple of years with regards to the increase in the sewerage, but we've made a little bit of a hike this year to 5%, which is fine, and it fits in with our plans. And with Troy and the crew having the work within those figures with a couple of works and stuff like that. I know we've got some borrowings coming up with that, but that's what it's about. So, all good.
Anything further? That's good.
Through you to Leah. With the exclusion of the sewered areas in Shute Harbour, would you like, I know it's a benefited area, how long is that going to stay there for, do we know? Because it's been a while. Surely they've paid for it by now.
Through the chair, I might pass over to the Manager of Water and Sewerage, Troy, if you'd like to discuss that one in a bit more detail.
Through the Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Clifford, for the question. We're currently looking at several schemes, similar sort of scenarios, looking at a pathway to make sure that we can ease them out of that current environment and give them an offer of aligning with our current pressure sewer policy. So that's one of the projects we're looking at in the next financial year to push forward again.
Cool, thank you.
So just only that point, so the cost of their scheme, their piece, has that been repaid or is that still being repaid?
It's still being repaid because they get serviced from a differently, because the council still maintains those Aquanova pressure systems in there. So I think the difference between the normal rating and what they pay now is roughly about $65 to $75, but it's only purely on a cost recovery basis. It's not anything above, it's just covering that maintenance that we do each year to service those areas.
Sure. Further, Jim?
No.
Any further discussion? Sure. The motion of the council resolved in accordance with section 94(2) of Local Government Act 2009 and sections 99 and 100 of Local Government Regulation 2012 to make and levy sewage utility charges as per listed in the report. I put to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Now moving to item 212, administration of rates and charges. Move Councillor Simpson. I'll second this one. Leah, would you like to speak to the item?
Thank you. Through the Chair, this resolution is to adopt a number of policies the Council has in place to administer our rates and charges. Predominantly, they all remain fairly consistent with last year, with a couple exceptions. Our owner-occupied properties, so we have expanded the definition to extend that owner-occupied discount to people who may have just built a home, who may not have had the appropriate building finalisation paperwork come through to enable them to get that additional discount on their general rates. The discount for prompt payment remains in place at 5% on the same charges as we have historically had in place. And our interest, the only other thing to note is our interest on overdue rates and charges, with the figures coming back through from the statistics, is around 12.19% proposed for next year, which under the regulations is based on 8% plus the 10-year bank bond yield rate. So 12.19% is what's being recommended. Aside from that, our recovery actions and prompt payment special discounts policy remain unchanged, and happy to take any further questions Council might have.
So, Leah, just to clarify, from last year, no major changes?
Through the Chair, no major changes other than the additional owner-occupied discount extended.
Councillor Phillips?
Yeah, can I just get clarification on that interest? I thought that was like we go from the government, yeah, and that's the amount that we set. We don't actually make it up.
Correct. Through the Chair, it is in the local government regulations, the principle for how to come up with that interest charge, which is what's being proposed in the policy.
Yeah.
Probably for me, I think the interest has come down a little bit, but the legislation does say the maximum amount. So we could choose less than that. I think we all know we don't want to be a bank for outstanding rates and charges. So we can redirect those people to other places and pay their bills soon. But again, I'm always wary of those people who do come to us with financial difficulties, and knowing until they can transition off a high interest, we're not really helping them. I know we're working with loss of the 5% discount and stuff as well, but for me that's something where I think we need to do. Probably while I've got the floor too, just I feel within all these is I know we're transitioning to new rates system and noticing system. I'd like to see, for the people who read the rates notices, for them to get a better understanding of what the charges are. I mean, people send me theirs and residential's category 4B that isn't even mentioned in our revenue statement. I've met someone who'd been paying for 2 disconnected toilets for years because they just got, Cross a Pine sewer 5 units or something, that 5 times. They just, it makes sense to us and our officers what those items mean, but for people reading them that do seek questions, I think there is something where we could make it clearer for them to understand what each of these charges are.
Through the Chair, happy to take that recommendation on board, and we'll consider that as we design our future rates notice and workshop that with councillors if required.
Anything further on this one?
Please. Ms Add, through you, Mayor. I do also want to, for the people that are on screen, we do have hardship policies. The rates team are very cognisant of the cost of living at the moment and do work with each ratepayer if they do find that they're in financial difficulties. So if you are in that space, please don't hesitate to give us a call. There's information on our website as well where we can help.
Any further, councillors? Okay, the motion that council resolve to administer its system of rates and charges of Whitsunday local government area in accordance with the how it is listed in the report. I'll put to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Item number 213, concessions and donations for rates and charges. Move Councillor Finlay. I'll second the item. Speak to it, please, Lee.
Through the chair, I guess following on from the conversation before, this report has a number of policies proposed that provide concessions or discounts to our ratepayers who may be in need for a variety of reasons. We have our pensioner rates rebate policy, which remains unchanged from what was proposed last year. Our deferral arrangements policy, again for pensioners as well. Our rate relief policy and our concession for concealed water leaks. The only other thing I might mention, whilst it's not within this resolution, Council's already resolved the community support policy at the 27th of May special meeting, which also provides further concessions to our not-for-profit community organisations on rates and charges. Happy to take any questions there might be on these policies.
That's fine.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just a dollar question on this. To the finance team, do you know what the total dollar amount of the concessions are that we provide to our pensioners? Sorry for John Spot, but
yes, through the chair. I might take the exact figure on notice, but from memory in last year's annual report, it was around 750,000.
just following on that question, Mr. Mayor. So the concession applies to water and sewerage and waste charges. So does each of those business units pay for their component of the pensioner concession, or does the general fund pay for it all?
Through the chair, it is a community service obligation. Water and utility businesses don't have to provide a concession, so it's recognised under our national competition policy. You'll see in the annual performance plans as well the community service obligation and therefore the pensioner discounts that we provide.
Yeah, just in basic terms then. So the amount that's the concession for water and sewage is funded from water and sewage. Yeah, good. Thank you.
Through you, Mayor. For the budget for 26-27, we're looking at a pensioner concession of around the $800,000 mark.
Okay.
Anything further on this particular item? Okay, the motion that council resolve in accordance with sections 1201A and 121A and 122 of Local Government Regulation 2012 to grant a pensioner concession in the form of a rebate of an amount of 30% of the rates and charges as listed in the report. Scroll down for me. Is there anything further there? I'm not going to read through the whole thing, but adopt the recommendation as per listed in the report at 2.13. I put to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Okay, moving to item 214, investment policy. Move Councillor Clifford, second Councillor Wright. Would you like to discuss the item?
Thank you, Mayor. The investment policy hasn't changed from last year except tiny edits. We have done a deep review of this policy because it obviously guides how we invest our monies from council, and we do want to obtain the best return that we can for the monies that we hold. And so therefore there's no real revisions to this policy at this stage. We request that the policy stays as is to ensure continuity, administrative efficiency and consistency in our investment practices. Thank you.
Question to the CEO, Mr Mayor. Item 4.12.3 of the policy says we are to maintain a cash investment register. It also says establish process to include a report from the Manager of Financial Systems and Services to the Council on a monthly basis, no more than 45 days after the end of the report period, containing the following information: all investments held as at the specified date, and the summary of the returns generated by the portfolio and its maturity profile. Mr Mayor, through the CEO, I don't recall actually getting that report ever, and just how are we going to now receive this report?
We can have a register in relation to all of those things available if we get a request. But as you stated, I think we'll be having a look at both our monthly and quarterly reporting and seeing whether we can provide more information in relation to that.
Because it is in the policy, Mr Mayor.
Yep. Would you like to speak to that?
Through you, Mayor, from the July 26 council papers, there will be more detailed information to ensure that we comply with this policy moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just add to that because I did have some notes on that as well, Councillor Finlay. I did note I guess people read these things a little bit differently, but one thing that stuck out to me was the number one priority of the investment policy was preservation of capital. So yeah, I think I would appreciate some regular reporting around that. I think total value of the portfolio, average returns we're receiving, benchmarking, understanding what's restricted, what's not restricted, and obviously compliance back to the policy. Do you have anything, Councillor Barnum?
Probably just, I did raise this as well. I'll try and find that balance because I know what a drain on was. My question is a monthly report actually required on this? But I'm happy for us to work into that format. It's what's in here now. I kind of feel I did see the amount of resources that went into very regular reporting, which we like to get information, but we also have requests available and they're often shared with all councillors. So that's just the trade-off for me. I did feel sort of quarterly, might be enough, or the column within 45 days of the term. But I do see the interest return numbers, and I've seen the increase in that as we've put this strategy in place. I think as we've been managing a reasonable amount of money, it's good to see a good return coming back on that. Probably my other thing within the policy, reading through so many, it still talks about supporting local branches. Are we still investing at a lower return to support some of our local bank branches? Thanks.
Through the Chair, yes, we do hold a term deposit with Queensland Country Bank out in Collinsville to make sure that there's some money held within our region. So whilst we only hold that for a 6-month period under our policy, we do reinvest continuously, assessing the risk environment, of course, but at this stage we're comfortable continuing with that investment.
Yeah, just in response to Councillor Player, I don't think it's a very onerous task because I would presume we've already had a spreadsheet with every term deposit, with the maturity date, with the interest amount, and how much we're going to yield out of that. So, and as they come due, obviously you assess your cash flow and they're not looking to reinvest. So I don't think it's very onerous.
From my perspective, I'm happy for management to use its discretion. It's a lot of money. I think we should have good governance around it. So. Anything further on the investment policy? Okay, the motion that Council resolved in accordance with Section 191 of Local Government Regulation 2012 to adopt the investment policy as per attached for the 2026-27 financial year. I put to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Okay, moving on to our next item, which is item 2.15, the debt borrowing policy. Move Councillor Wright, second Councillor Clifford. Speak to the item, please, Director Paddy.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, this is a regular policy that comes up to Council. Not only does it provide the running rails of us borrowing for Council for capital works, but it also does show our proposed borrowings for the next couple of years. So for 26-27, we're looking for a borrowing for sewer of 4.306500 for a multi-year project. We're earmarking at the moment a borrowing of $5 million for the sports park again. We're still looking around how we're going to be funding that initiative moving forward, but we do want to have it there proposed if needed. And a strategic investment amount of $4.5 million. These are proposed. We still need to go through the process of requesting an application to Queensland Treasury and providing a whole lot of detailed documents so that they know that we are providing a basis and that we are financial to be able to make these borrowings. This is just proposing that we're looking to draw down on these moving forward should these capital programs continue. Thank you.
It's fine.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I fully support this. This is a very responsible debt borrowing program. Obviously, it fits into our 10-year plans further on, and we can see the needs to why we need to borrow. And it's very responsible in that we are only borrowing, we're not borrowing so that we can afford to pay dividends back to the general fund. That's just false economy. And I know that was moved around, but that's not the way we're going to operate as this council. And this is the way this borrowing is. And, and in particular, we focus back on the waste again and our sewage. We unfortunately, cost of those cells costs a fortune. And this is the way of smoothing the cost out on it. We will talk about depreciation later on. But again, Mr. Mayor, and the other good thing about this is responsible. Because I remember last year we had an $800,000 borrowing for a water pipe, which I think got excluded from that budget after that. But this is so much more responsible and fits in that we've got 10-year accurate financial plans for where we're going in the future. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
I'll just say I'm happy that Councillor Finlay's happy. I recall this discussion last year. It didn't end well. And look, I'll echo that. I think it's a much more pragmatic approach, and I think combined with what we see in those 10-year plans, gives us a lot more certainty around what we should expect this to go into the future. I know there's still some things we need to push and pull from time to time, particularly around major projects, but I think particularly for those core businesses, this is where we need to be heading. So, anyone else like to speak to the item? Okay, the motion the council resolve in accordance with section 192 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 to adopt the debt borrowing policy as attached at 2.15.1 for the 26-27 financial year. I'll put to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Okay, moving on to item 2.16, the dividend return to rate policy, which I will move, and Councillor Collins seconds. To speak to the report, please, Patty.
Thank you, Mayor. This report has slightly changed from the previous year. A lot of work has been undertaken in relation to our 10-year financial forecast with all of our entities, including commercial, and also the work that the Mayor has talked about in his speech around bringing the general fund into more of a manageable position, that we are now in a position to move to a percentage basis for our commercial and utilities. So this is really working on the premise that we maximise the return for the community with allowing the businesses to be sustainable as well. So this is allowing them to be able to invest into their capital development moving forward. So thank you.
I'll talk to the item first, Councillor Fenlon. I can see you're biting at the bit. Look, I'm very supportive of this policy, not just this one, but the intent of having this incorporated into the budget discussions. I think it's an important step towards greater transparency and clearer understanding and separation between the general fund, the utility businesses and the commercial businesses, and really I think supports really that view that the earnings from these businesses can't just be rated willy-nilly by the general fund. We need to have a structured and transparent approach to how they're managed. I think really good point we're at here. I think I've probably said previously we do need to come back and revisit this every year. I would particularly love to see an improvement in future focus, ensuring those business activities generate stronger commercial returns in the near term, and that we can sort of bring that forward and really, as I said, make sure that those are reported transparently. I just want to confirm. We've spoken a bit around the general fund, and obviously this is the discussion around the dividends. But just water utility dividend at 1.81 million, airport dividend at 771,000, commercial parking dividend at 1 million. That's correct. Yeah, thank you. It's Phil, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I think you're stealing my thunder there a little bit. But anyway, all good. Mr. Mayor, I fully support this, and this, again, like all the budget documents that we're getting today are all fitting in with the financial plans at the end of the agenda today. And this is where this all fits in so good, because we're adopting a dividend policy here, but we are also taking consideration the financial capacity of those business units to be able to do it. So rather than just pull the money out, we've got a plan, and if we need to reinvest it back into infrastructure and those things, well, we're not pulling a dividend out. And this is so good. 2 years ago, Mr. Mayor, we adopted a budget, or we got put CEO and the previous director of corporate service presented the budget, where we're going to pull $9 million worth of dividends out of water and sewage. I would have liked to have seen the percentage on that policy then, Mr. Mayor, what that would have been, probably over 100%. So this is a very responsible dividend policy, Mr. Mayor, that we've got. Fits in with the 10-year plan that we've got further coming up, and we've got the director of commercial here. It fits in with his plans as well. At the end of the day, he knows what money he's got and everything like that. And again, this just fits in with the whole overall strategic process plan of where we're going.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I do support this. I still look at the return and reinvesting into the business % still, but I think we know there's a significant number of assets there. We're very lucky for the state to pay for all that. We know it's an important transport hub. I also think the table for me does show the areas we have significant risk, and that's what I think we're doing right here, is allowing those sewage and waste businesses to keep the funds they need to reduce that risk, invest in their own businesses, and I'd like to see them doing the jobs that they have to do, but it is up to us to balance those costs. Again, with the borrowing policy, I support us investing in that rather than putting it all on today's ratepayer when we are taking long-term projects. But yes, for me, it is just about seeing how much of this money should be reinvested back into the business, and then what is the benefit to the general ratepayer.
Just make a couple of comments. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, good to see Director Craig in charge of commercial businesses. I know he's a go-getter and tries to do his best and turn some of these things around. But when you look at the airport and Shute Harbour and Flagstaff Hill and a number of caravan parks and whatever, they're not core business of local government. So it's important that we do get a return on our investment. Otherwise, I can't understand why we have them. So I know Craig's given his 110%, and hopefully this will throw some dividends and come to fruition and help us out in the general rate in the future. Thanks.
Well, the expectations that you do better, Craig.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Simps. I fully understood your commentary. Thank you.
You lost the words.
It's quiet down there today.
Okay, anything further on the dividend policy? Okay, the motion that Council resolved to adopt the dividend return to ratepayer policy, business activities is attached to 2.16.1 for the 2026-27 financial year. I put to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Okay, moving on to item 2.17, application of Code of Competitive Conduct of Business Activities. Move Councillor Clifford, second Councillor Bowman. Would you like to speak to the item, please, Leah?
Thank you. Through the Chair, every year Council is required to assess its requirements under Local Government Act and regulations. There are thresholds set for what defines a significant or a prescribed business activity. So this year that assessment's been undertaken, and this particular resolution is focused on how which businesses council elects to choose to apply the Code of Competitive Conduct to. So majority is historical from last year, with the only exception being the introduction of commercial parking as a prescribed business activity, with the work that's been done across the organisation to isolate out that business from 1 July. It is proposed to apply the Code of Competitive Conduct to that business. I might hand over to Craig if you wanted to talk through commercial car parking at all in relation to the new business activity that's commencing from 1 July.
Yeah, thanks, Liv. So yeah, with regards to the commercial car parking strategy that we're looking to implement, 1 July we're obviously working hard behind the scenes to get all of those ducks in a row. I will say that it's an all of organisation effort, interface between departments, technology. It's been problematic, but we are pushing forward, and we're confident that we'll be able to achieve the outcome directed by councillors. I think the upside for the commercial parking strategy, it's more about infringing. It's about amenity. It's about how we actually function with the car parking, having those really premium spots to support businesses and trading. So for us, it's about changing behaviours, improving amenity, upgrading facilities such as Waterson Way as well. So, for us, it's trying to find that balance between the function, but also the benefit of community and the ratepayer. Thank you.
Probably also mention the fact coming across, I think, again, we know that's significant community benefit. I think it's just a matter of legislation that those numbers get put out there. We know there's so much that we do in council that doesn't earn a return, that is a service for the community. With swimming pools, barbecues, public toilets, that's why we charge rates, because we are providing services for the community. And I think the entertainment centre's a great resource. It does a lot. It does have a cost like so many other things we do. So I totally agree. It's not a fully commercial business, but I also hope we can improve the outcomes from there and get some return on the significant investment involved.
Anything further on this report? Okay, the motion that council resolves to, in accordance with section 47.7 of the Local Government Act 2009, applied the competitive code of conduct to Whitsunday Coast Airport, Foxdale Quarry, commercial parking, Whitsunday holiday parks as prescribed business activities, as determined in accordance with section 39 of the Local Government Act 2012, and B, not apply the competitive code of conduct to its road maintenance activity. It is not determined to be a roads activity in accordance with section 47 of the Local Government Act 2009. As it does not involve submitting competitive tenders to the state government or any other local government entity for securing road maintenance work, or submitting a competitive tender in relation to constructing and maintaining a road in council's local government area that council put out to competitive tender. And in accordance with section 47.7 and 8 of Local Government Act 2009, not apply the competitive code of conduct to the Proserpine Entertainment Centre and Chute Harbour Marine Terminal as a prescribed business activity for the financial year, as council considers the cost of applying the code will outweigh the benefits, and the activities have a significant non-commercial objectives and community service obligations, and D, adopt the business activities policy at 2.17.1 for the 26-27 financial year. I put to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Okay, moving to item 2.18, estimated activity statements, business activities. I have a mover in Councillor Barman, and I will second that. Do we want to have, do you want to start this off, Mr. CEO, or do you want to have the individual businesses talk to them at all? Or are you happy to take them as read? I think there probably will be some questions. I've got questions, so.
Yeah, I think this is a slightly different approach in terms of the activity statements. Similar wording, but it does highlight the airport or the caravan parks through that process. So I think they're available as read, but I'm happy for any of the officers to comment if required for any questions.
Yep. All right, so we might go to them by exception. Do we have any questions to kick off? Councillor Bowman, you may move. Okay, I'll go first. Director Craig, Whitsunday Coast Airport I know we've spoken about this before, and I'm not going to tread on ground, but I think the forward performance trajectory, I've just got some concerns there. I understand, obviously, last year we had to do an adjustment, and there was some corrections there, but I think going off what's in the business activity report, budget revenue is approximately 6% below the current year forecast, with expenses increasing 5.7%, and our forward growth projections are lower than CPI. So I guess if you can, I don't want to harp on old ground, but if you can just give me some feedback on what's being done to really push things forward and improve outcomes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So to acknowledge your commentary is based on those numbers. I think for the airport team, what we were looking to do was rather the last 2 years we've come back to the council and said we're doing a downward adjustment on revenue, which we don't want to be doing. So what we've said is we've set targets there based on events such as Middle East, fuel costs, and a whole range of operational challenges that we're going through. That relates to 2 strong conversations with airlines as recently as yesterday. So the numbers in the budget for next year are numbers that we feel strongly that we can deliver. What I would like to say is that the actual commercial directorate, we're looking to come back at a BR1 with good news. That would be the change of one route to the destination is a significant uplift in revenue, whilst there's no other cost in expenditure. So we're out there strongly advocating for new routes. So I think what's in front of you there is our numbers that I will present back with hopefully an upside. If that hopefully answers your question. Aviation, it is a challenging industry given the complexities of working with airlines and others. But in saying that, we see that those numbers are achievable, conservative, and will be achieved, and hopefully a better result come B1 adjustment.
Thank you, Director. Any other questions?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I think it's a good report to put up to available to the public, quite level. Income and expenses, and obviously a big component of those expenses is depreciation, which we'll get later on. Mr. Mayor, I've got one question. It's in relation to water, outstanding borrowings. What I don't understand is we've got our external loans. We also got this internal loan, and the final due date is the 30th of June 2044. From my understanding, because I was on a previous council when we put in water treatment plants for Owen and Rossabine, that all happened back in the 2012-13 era. I don't understand why, and normally when you borrow it's a 20-year term. What I don't understand, Mr. Mayor, why this is a 30-year term, and why, I just don't understand that. And why hasn't it been paid off the first 10 years or whatever? I don't know. I would like to request further information on this one, Mr. Mayor. I just don't understand. I'm not sure where the figure came from originally. I do know there was some borrowings and there was a lot of grants available in the first time around, but maybe it's a report for the future, Mr. Mayor, just to, once we get this bogged down a bit more detail on that. But thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Can we talk to that at all, Troy, or are you happy to come back at another time?
Through the Mayor, happy to come back to that one. Yeah, just simply answer.
Okay. All right. That's one.
Thank you. I'll just go on the back of that. I did report back that I think going forward we should include these internal borrowings in our debt borrowing policy, just that we do report there. So when I saw it here, I thought it's something that we could touch on there, just so that we are fully transparent on the debts that are carried. Just off the top of my head, I think the recollection is that it was only about 24 I first found out about this. But then it was decided that it should be actually set as something to be paid back, and that's perhaps where the 20-year term did actually start. But if it sat there, for all those years, I think that's something we need to look at going forward to make sure that internal borrowings are still treated as an investment in ratepayers' money, especially in commercial businesses. Otherwise, I think we see water as very strong. I go through these numbers just for sewage while we've got you here, and I do see the amount of work that needs to go on there. I know we have a lot of works going forward through the RAF, but we also have a large number of issues, especially around to work on. The sooner, I think, anywhere we ensure there's not going to be sewage issues in significant rain events, the better, but I also understand that the numbers and the resources have to add up.
Just to council through you, Mr Mayor, I think the performance reports are a fantastic snapshot of the businesses, particularly water, wastewater and waste. We've had a conversation recently about performance reporting in 26-27 moving forward. The managers are aware of council's desire to get visibility. Not all the metrics within those performance reports are something that we can collect data on a monthly basis. In some cases, even on a quarterly basis. So we'll just be transparent in our reporting. But the intention is that the metrics which are contained within the performance reports will form the basis of the directorate reporting going forward to give you a much better understanding of how the business is operating.
All right, one last one for me. Thanks. Just in the reporting here, we've got the CSOs from water and sewerage totalling up to almost $290,000 going out to a few clubs when we went through our policy, which reduced the offsets to other people to only 30%, with significant increases for Bowen Showgrounds, Proserpine Showgrounds, Whitsunday Sports Park. Just moving forward, I'd like to get an understanding of how we keep the equity through these groups. That's a large investment, out of doors, recycled water, things like that, but these are services that are only available to some clubs. Unfortunately, the bills are only ending up very large with some clubs. I'd really like to see us just understand where these CSOs fall, how we can get those CSOs to be more accurate. Thanks.
Through the Mayor. Yeah, thanks, Councillor Finlay. Happy to unpack that later with Council to work through to make sure it's very clear and transparent what we've got in front of us and what we can do.
I'll have another one back to Commercial Director, just around the Proserpine Entertainment Centre, and I know we've had some discussions, but I guess just per the performance plan there, we're forecasting on current year budget that revenue will be down 24% and expenses will be up 29%, so deficit increasing from a $1.42 million deficit to a $1.81 million deficit. So I'm obviously aware there's some reasons there in costs not being captured, those types of things. But I guess just in your own words, Director, if you can sort of talk to that difference between the 2 years and what's not happened there. I know I'd sort of raised the question at some point through the year how we were tracking with regards to our budget performance for the PEC, and it was told we were on track, so I really was trying to understand that deterioration in performance into the forward financial year, and also now that it's in your remit, what you might be doing to try and turn that around.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. So with regards to the numbers that are presented, there was a transition between the restructure and when those numbers fell versus departments holding them. So really for us, the 1 July number, or date, pardon me, is the date that we will be fully functioning and operating the PEC. What we're doing behind the scenes is looking at cost centres, breaking down shows in their own P&Ls, understanding which shows carry too much risk to not undertake, looking at what we do from a community perspective and what that has with regards to an impact on profitability, looking at margins on items that we sell at the PEC, looking at how we buy things. So what we're doing right now, and have done for the last 3 months, is go through the PEC to determine where opportunities exist, and we have made significant savings already that won't be showing. In relation to simple things like how we turn the air conditioning on. Turn it on at one switch, we go high tariff, and that's what happens. We're actually functioning now, so it's ticket booth, bar, then the centre, the same as the airport. An example of that, the airport changing of the aircon, so $150,000 1 year out of power. So we're looking at everything we're doing down to a granular level, and we believe that the numbers that we'll present through the year will be different to what's presented, given the transition with the restructure and what we're required to do from budget numbers required at a point in time to now where we are with regards to commercial director taking the peck on.
Look forward to seeing the year progress. Any other questions around the annual performance plans? The motion of the council resolve in accordance with section 34 and 1693I of the Local Government Regulation 2012 to adopt the estimated activity statements contained within the annual performance plans for the following business units: Whitsunday Water, Waste and Recycling Services, Whitsunday Coast Airport, Foxdale Quarry, Shute Harbour Marine Terminal, Commercial Parking, Whitsunday Holiday Parks and the Proserpine Entertainment Centre for the 26-27 financial year. As attached in the report, I put to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Okay, moving to our final meeting, which is the adoption of the 26-27 budget, item 2.19. I will move this one, and Councillor Finlay, you're happy to second. Would you like to speak to the budget, please, Patty?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. As you stated in your opening address, it has been a long few months. We've been going through the finances across the organisation in detail. I believe that we've provided, from a management perspective, a lot of transparency and clarity, and discussed all the items that the council has wanted to discuss over that period. And yes, 13 meetings. Well, we got here today. I could go through all the detail, but the detail is in the papers. It does show, substantial savings across the general fund in order to reduce that deficit, to reduce the reliance on our commercial and utilities businesses. That did reflect a combination of historical decisions, external cost pressures, increasing asset depreciation that we'll have to continue to keep an eye on for the next 10 years, to be honest. We really need to have a look at how we're managing our assets, which we are, and hitting that off really this year and into 26-27. Service level expectations and the need for stronger organisational productivity. We do have in the budget an amount that we can put towards transformation initiatives, which is really exciting for me, and particularly the back of house corporate team, because a lot of those efficiencies will help us transform those functions into the future. I do, please bear with me, Mayor, I would like to sincerely thank the councillors for spending that time with us and unpacking what we needed to. The executive leadership team, I have to admit, I was new coming into that team in January, and I think we gelled quite closely and quickly in relation to our fiscal responsibility for our budget, and I can't go past the finance team. This year we've had illness, sickness, long hours, and a new way with me coming into the chair. So all I can do is say thank you. They've gone over and above. I do believe, the position that we're in now holds us well into the next 10 years, but there is still significant work for us to undertake in the 27-28 year as we solidify our savings in 26-27.
Well, I might start with questions first and then speaking to it. Are you happy with that? Or do you want to speak to it straight?
I'd like to speak to
I'll
it.
let you speak. Okay.
No,
you can go first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a few words to say, not as quite as long as your excellent professional speech. But anyway, two parts to this message. One is about unification, the other one is a little snippet on reflection. I'd just like to do a quote on this, and I know Paul's not here today. No, he'd be proud of me for saying this. Because it says, Bernard Salt, regardless of the local demographics, the single most important thing for a community to have, I think, is unity. And the most galvanising force for any community is to know and to agree with where it's headed. Mr. Mayor, this is what this budget's about. It's knowing where we're headed. I'm pleased to support the budget, as now we have an accurate, responsible financial plan, knowing where we are going. I want to thank you, Mayor, for your stewardship. I really do, in driving this budget reform. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much. To my fellow councillors, it's been a long road, as we know, but thank you again. We've all had great discussions, great input, not always agreeing on things, but that's what council is about. So again, I thank you for that. I convey my thanks to the staff who contributed to this reform, Mr. Mayor. It's a great reform, and later on I'll refer to some detail in this report. But I do want to just touch on a little reflection, Mr Mayor, before I continue the unification spiel. 2 years ago, when the first budget for this term of the council was presented, I raised concerns at the lack of information provided to councillors. Following some queries as to the breakdown of the budget into activities, this revealed the general fund had a deficit of $10 million after increasing the general rate for that year. The proposal to fund this deficit was transfer funds from the water, the sewerage and the airport. We were presented with pictures of buckets. I asked the question as to whether there was any savings in expenditure that could be achieved, and was advised by the previous Director of Corporate Services that there was any areas in the budget that could be reduced, Mr Mayor. The transferring of funds from water and sewage funds would be at the detriment to the future planned funding for the infrastructure in these funds. As we know, I would have liked, at some point in time, I would have liked to see how much actually been drained out of these two funds. That's not in here today, and this is what I had today. As a result of lack of accountability information reports, Mr Mayor, I sent an email to the CEO with a draft format of the financial management reports that I would require to be able to make informed financial decisions in future budgets. Mr Mayor, I'm a CPA of 30 years experience and certainly know what I'm talking about in regards to managing finances. I am pleased to say now with this budget, we have comprehensive financial management reports that have been prepared for the activities and the business units of the council, and also the general fund as well, Mr Mayor. Last year, we were again presented with a budget with a general fund deficit of an order of $10 million. In the adoption of your budget, Mr Mayor, you inserted a paragraph, and it said to this effect: to direct the CEO to address the funding shortfalls within the general funded activities of council through the use of dividends and operational initiatives to address the remaining shortfall in general fund operations. Mr Mayor, that should have been acted upon in July last year, straight after that motion. So continue back onto my message about unification, because this is what this is about. And I do quote again from that operational plan. I'm not going to read the whole thing about there, but it does say the council is dedicated to a unified, prosperous, sustainable and livable region, embracing diversity, natural beauty and community pride. That's what this budget's about. It's a responsible one. Our efforts will provide leadership, ensure good governance and be supported by a values-based organisation with staff committed to one region, one council, one team. So it's not just the staff, it's the councillors, and we take the community along with the right business as well. Our region has infrastructure that meets current and future needs, and funds have to be provided and set aside for this infrastructure. These 10-year plans that we've got in the future here are a reflection on that. I do want to make mention of the water, Mr Mayor. There's no future borrowings planned for water in here. However, in a couple of years out, not Councillor Troy, but Manager Troy down here, there is significant infrastructure that's all funded by cash, Mr Mayor, and that's about responsible way that we're doing this budget, putting money aside, not just draining it out to pay for the general fund, but having that money in there. And we're not even having to borrow. There's tens of $13 million. There's a new reservoir, I think, planned as well, Mr Mayor. So how great is that to have these plans backing up that financial position? Where are we? Yeah, for the first two budgets in respect to the general fund, there was an order, as I just said, an order of $10 million deficit each. With, to be honest with you, no way planned is how to address that deficit in the first 2 years, Mr Mayor. The culmination of the 26-27 budget provides a way for the general fund to be back in balance. We're very close to it. This is significant to achieve in 1 year. And I think the overall surplus this year is like $12 million when you add up water, sewage, airport and everything like that. Compared to our first budget, it was like a $244,000 operating surplus. Last year it was 3.6. But that's how far we've gone, Mr Mayor. And in relation to, I think it's on, and I'll get to that later on, but there's a page on here that demonstrates those savings and the significant changes in the general fund, $9.6 million variance from last year to this year is how much we've reined in. That is significant, Mr Mayor. With regards to the other activities, Mr Mayor, as you know, I've insisted that these activities have their own set of books, own financial reports, in a satisfactory reporting format for councillors and staff to know the financial position of these units. I'm happy to note now we have them prepared. Yeah, from here on in, it's imperative that the councillors, we are directors, the executive and management staff have timely reports prepared and presented at least quarterly to ensure accountability with the budget, Mr Mayor. We need to make sure we have that very timely. The previous two budgets, Mr Mayor, were nothing to celebrate. This one, I'm saying I am pleased to support this budget, as now we have an accurate, responsible financial plan to support where we're going. And again, I'll just end with that quote from Bernard Salt: regardless of local demographics, the single most important thing for a community to have, I think, is unity, and the most galvanising force for any community is to know and agree with where it's headed. So I think we're unified with this budget, Mr. Mayor, and we know where we're now going. We've got some more issues, and depreciation is a huge cost, as we know. We're building a new cell. The first thing we do when we build a new cell is depreciation. You've got to fund it over 6 years or something rather than like that. So there's another $1 million coming into the coffers, but we'll talk about that later in the part of the plan. So thanks, Mr. Mayor.
All right, questions? Councillor.
I will. Say on top of the cost of a waste, we also know about education and upcoming risks like batteries that can start fires in a cell, and not the same significant amounts. So that's where it's very important for us to get on top of our side of the business, but we've also got to work with the community, really get them understanding that we can all do things better and differently and reduce everyone's costs. I also say I only had the benefit of one budget when you joined the team. I definitely tried to work on the revenue side and the equity side and understand the expenses. There was a lot there which was saying there's no meat left on the bone. And I still believe that was very much true. I think it's very easy for us to sit at the desk here and say, do that, and what could have been done in the last 12 months, but there's business as usual to do, there's transformation to do. I don't think we can underestimate what we're asking of the staff right throughout council from this table, and keeping those expectations realistic. That is being sustainable, which is in everyone's best interest, but I do think this is still a very aspirational budget. I think it's down to 0.6% increase in expenditure in the future financial year, when we know how much all costs have gone on there. So I really say we're here, appreciate what has been done, and I know there's still a lot of work to do to bring this to fruition, but as you said, I think we are on that path. I keep saying it's like trying to turn a big ship. I won't say which ship, but that's the thing here. This is a significant business with a lot of work to do, and it's just how we can manipulate that without cleaning the slate and thinking that the problems and the jobs we have to do every day aren't going to be our most important task.
So just a couple of questions from me. First one is around statutory fees and charges, which we've obviously adopted our fees and charges schedule, but based in pure revenue terms, expected revenue collected from statutory fees and charges is forecast to grow 69.2% in this coming financial year. So I think I acknowledge we've obviously taken a stronger, we've done the fees and charges reviews through the year. Adopted a stronger approach to user paid philosophy with regards to user pays, but I struggled to understand how we were potentially under recovering fees and charges as much as 69.22%. So I guess, Mr. CEO, can you maybe, I guess, give a bit of a reflection or input into, I guess what's there now and how that reflects with regards to improved cost recovery, what's been subsidised by ratepayers previously. Are we achieving full cost recovery going forward, or should we expect further material adjustments, or are there further productivity gains to be made in the delivery of services attached to fees and charges?
Mr. Mayor, this has been a journey in relation to fees and charges. Probably for a number of years we increased our fees and charges by a percentage increase. Unfortunately, that percentage increase was not the same amount as the cost of doing the business. Obviously, as a business, we were looking at the expertise and skills to do some of those components. Some of those activities require vehicles, cars, expertise to actually achieve them. What we've done over the last 12 months is a rigorous review of each of our fees and charges to try and determine what actually it is we do, see what the real costs are, how to actually try and ensure that we get closer to cost recovery. I'd probably say in many cases we are not at cost recovery. We are still utilising some of the general fund to cover some of those businesses going forward. We've also introduced a range of accounting techniques to actually understand it and get a good understanding of what are those particular activities we do, how much they cost per activity. It is fair to say that sometimes we'll do the same activity 20 times and they'll cost different each time, but we are trying to get to an average in relation to many of those fees and charges to be real. We've also had a fairly strong view in relation to what is a statutory charge, direct cost associated with doing that, compared to a commercial charge, which is actually based on commercial activity. So we have seen a significant review in relation to all of those activities. Yes, this year we did see a significant rise in relation to the revenue associated with that. But we will probably see that we'll continue to work with our businesses in the different areas to ensure that our fees and charges are reasonable and also that they are where they need to be, cost recovery effective. But Patty may also have some further comments.
Through you, Mayor. Just to provide a bit more clarity with that, the real big change in that was the incorporation of the commercial parking revenue in relation to the big change. Yeah. And so for the fees, it's really around the $400,000 increase, and I totally agree with the CEO. Whilst we've spent a lot of time unpacking the cost recovery on a lot of those fees, that work will continue into 26-27.
Just another one from me. So just on depreciation, and I know there's been a change in the last day there, but I'm sort of looking at the numbers there. So we've got depreciation only going up between financial years. It was at 1.16, and I think with the change yesterday it moved to 1.39% change in depreciation. There's obviously significant capital investment going on. We've potentially have a change around how we contributed assets, and also notice that our asset valuations increased by about 100 million. So so I'm just it felt low to me. So I'm just trying to understand what's happening there with depreciation. Are there timing things, particularly around valuations, and if ultimately if the depreciation impacts have been fully incorporated into long-term forecasts.
Through the chair, happy to take that question. So I think it's a bit of a combination. Firstly, in relation to timing, so we have seen quite a large increase in depreciation from this year to next year. We incorporated about $1 million increase in waste depreciation as we recognise that asset capitalised this year that wasn't in the original figures that we were modelling within the budget, but it was within our full cost price modelling. In addition to that, as we move into 27-28, we see another increase in depreciation, quite substantial, and that's where we see the impact of our two community hubs and our sports park depreciation. So it's somewhat smooth because of the timing of those two activities, but depreciation is going up. You're absolutely correct. The cost of our assets is going up as well, and there's a lot of work we have to do across the organisation to manage that moving forward and make sure that our assets are reflected appropriately within our balance sheet and therefore the depreciation costs associated with those.
And if I can just add, Mayor, 26-27 is also going to be a real investigation analysis over our assets that we're currently holding to really understand the conditions. The conditions assessment of the majority of our assets has just come in the last week. We'll be looking at those. We'll be looking at, are they fit for purpose? Are they what we need? And are their useful lives correct? So that will all impact, hopefully in a favourable way, our depreciation moving forward.
Question, Councillor Palmer?
Yeah, thanks. Page 376, just the financial ratios in the outer years. Is that going to upper and lower bounds? It seems to split into dual numbers.
I think the one I liked was next year percentage change in net rates and utilities was 3.1. Councillor Palmer, 3.1%. That was one I liked. So.
Chair, I'm sorry, I don't quite understand the question.
Oh, sorry, yeah, just in the table, page 376 of the agenda is the financial ratios. And just from 29-30 under like surplus ratio, you seem to have an upper bound and a lower bound number there.
Through the chair, we are required to report a 5-year average. So that's the second line you see there is the 5-year average moving forward out to the 10-year.
Questions? That's it.
Thanks for this. Yeah, I've got a few. Probably, where can we start? Maybe just thought depreciation. I mean, it's a huge figure in here, but I think it's important that we actually, let the public know what we're actually doing with that. It's funding our capital works program. It's funding a bit of redemption as well, and in particular, in relation to the waste, where we are actually borrowing. We can use, even though the sale might be $7 million, we're going to depreciate it over 6 years, which is $1.2 million a year, whatever it might be. We can actually use that funds to pay for the redemption of that loan, Mr. Mayor. So it is a bit of an accounting type of treatment, but when we look back, and this is the importance of having these cash flow models over the back over here, because it actually reduces our surplus, but it doesn't actually change the bottom line in the cash position, which is, you probably need to be an accountant to get your head around that a little bit, but at the end of the day, that's what these reports do. Mr. Mayor, just, sorry, I was just jumping. Oh, probably one thing, and these budgets that we've got, they don't have to be exactly prepared in accordance with the standards that we adopt at the end of the year. So one of the things I've always got a bugbear, and I've never won with a QAO auditor yet, is the cash flow. And you know where I'm coming from there. So in our cash flow, Mr. Mayor, we show what the cash at the end of the reporting period is. But what I would like to show on here, and maybe we can amend this, to actually include the amount in investments as well. Because when you go to the balance sheet, we show the cash plus we show the investments, and it's a lot more than what the cash flow shows down here. The movement in the investments is showing up in the cash flow for investing activities. But if you were just out there in the public and not quite understand this, you just read the bottom line and think, oh, okay, that's not too bad, that cash balance. In reality, it's a lot more than that. I would just like that put back in there. I know when it comes to preparing the end of the year financial statements, the auditors won't take my views on it, and goes, if it is, as we know. So just a little point on that, Mr. Mayor. It just goes, particularly this year, because we've got a lot of funds from our grants that haven't been spent yet, so our cash balance is right up there at the moment, so which is all good. No, that probably will be good. The only thing, Mr. Mayor, I'll just reiterate again the importance of these 10-year plans, knowing where we're going. We know what our dividends are, that we can afford to pull out of them. We've got our infrastructure plans all fitting in with this as well. And it's just, like, as I get excited, Mr. Mayor, when I see where we know where we're going, and it's all in there. You can't keep running deficits. This is a business. If you're in business, a private business, if you run deficits, you're out the door. We're not the state, we're not the federal government where you can just borrow. This is a council which we've got to be accountable to our community. We've had to run this, we've got to run this council as a business. Obviously, we've got obligations to the community. At the end of the day, we've got to rein it and fund it within our means, Mr. Mayor. So, again, fully support this budget.
Councillor Bunn, final word?
It's the capital program, the oversimplification. I think having each line item can be helpful, especially when it comes to reviews and things. I like to be able to jump backwards and forwards because sometimes it's not always clear in hundreds of projects what's been bumped, so on and so forth. So I know we're already at a 380-page document, but I know for a long time we've still had individual line items on each capital program. So I think it is finding.
I think you understand the intent of what we were trying to achieve there, though. So
I think it does show it, but how we do have that transparency on what projects is that, and I know when we're getting up to $160, $180 million worth, that's a lot of line items too. But I'd still like to see that transparency, and for me, I do manage the spreadsheets a little bit, but it's also easy for me to be able to pull up an agenda and know that information is available.
Thanks, Councillor McClay. That's the other thing I was going to bring up about that. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to have included in here the full capital works program without the amounts in it, just a list of the items, because there is significant projects in there. This is the higher level, some of which is fine, but I fully support Councillor Clay, and whether or not we have to move that to put it in here.
Yeah, we can add that as an amendment just to create an attachment just of the list of project names.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's striking that balance. I think we know why we've done that. It's to deliver better value for money in the tendering process. But okay, anything further? I'll just add some final comments. Overall, I'm comfortable supporting this budget. Just a couple of things though. I think that the challenge is no longer just identifying these savings. The challenge is ensuring that the savings that we've identified through this budget preparation are actually delivered. So I won't include it in the resolution, but I do request the CEO take action within the monthly finance reports to really articulate that those savings that we've gone to are being achieved with regards to the general fund, and also. Yeah, I think really what I'm wanting to see there is that not only are they being achieved, but making sure that they are structural savings. They're not temporary savings from moving money from one place to another and deferring cost. And I think that they'll be heading in the right track. We've made significant progress here, I think, in reducing that general fund deficit and while continuing to invest in our region. One of the themes through this budget is that the continued shift towards user pays principles and clearer separation between the general fund, utility businesses and commercial activities. Whether through statutory fees, airport operations, commercial parking, utility pricing, services with identifiable beneficiaries should be funded as transparently and effectively as possible, so very much supportive of the change there. And that reduces unnecessary pressure on general rates and supporting long-term financial sustainability. So as I said in my budget speech, focus very much needs to be on delivery, ensuring that the projected savings and revenue improvements are realised, and that's where I'll be looking to make sure that we're maintaining our accountability there. So, okay. So the motion that Council resolve, one, to receive the statement of estimated financial position for the 25-26 financial year as attached, presented by the CEO in accordance with Section 205 of Local Government Regulation 2012. 2, in accordance with Section 1045A 4 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 170 of the Local Government Act Regulation 2012, to adopt the Whitsunday Regional Council budget as attached for the financial year 25-26, including estimates for 2 forward financial years, prepared in accordance with Section 169 Local Government Act Regulation 2012, incorporating the statements listed at item 2. 3, to adopt the reserve net movements from reserved as identified at 3.1.2.3.4. At item 4, to establish a dedicated commercial car parking reserve effective 1 July 2026. That is one that I had included for addition, Councillor Jan.
Thank you.
Item 5, in accordance with Section 1045A 3 of Local Government Act 2009 and Section 1692A of the Local Government Regulation 2012, to adopt Whitsunday Regional Council's long-term financial forecast as attached, incorporating the budget for this year and covering a further period of 9 years, in accordance with Section 171 of Local Government Regulation 2012, incorporating the statements listed under point 5. And at point 6, to note non-statutory 10-year financial forecast reports as attached for the business activities of water, sewage and waste. I put to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Well done, everyone. Okay, that brings us to the conclusion of our special budget meeting. I think we've made reasonable time this morning. We'll close the meeting at 11 a.m. Thank everyone for their attendance, and we'll convene for morning tea and some other activities we've got.